Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is One Day Today. We are on episode 147. I'm very excited about our guest with us today. But first, just say hello, check in. Just reminder why I'm here, why we're here. What One Day here, what we're about is, about holding a space for people like you. I'll even step back. I would assert no matter who you are, where you're from, what you believe, what you look like, what color you are, what size you are, you have something unique. You have something unique that can uplift, that can empower others. You and I, we all have a choice in each and every moment to plant seeds of love, of laughter, of wonder, of beauty for others. We can all, make a difference for people in our lives, for ourselves, for people that we don't even know, and that's a choice that we have, and that's the power we have, and as that reminder to recognize I have that power and so do you. And that's what this space is about, is to hold this for people like you, leaders who are up to big things in the world, who have gifts to share, and what's possible when we actually have the courage, to overcome what's in the way, no matter what we're dealing with whatever has happened. What's possible for ourselves, for our communities, for our friends, our families, and people we don't even know. And that's the question that we dare ask, and that's why we're here, is to share gifts of every individual that this planet has, and today is no exception. So I would like to welcome our guest today. Please welcome to the stage, everyone, Marla Press. Hi,
Hey,
Marla.
AB baby, nice to meet
Hey, how'd you
you.
know with it?
I love that you said I can call you AB baby because we should all make our names memorable, right? Number one, it's fun. And
It
number two,
is.
it's memorable, which we all want to be memorable, right? Sometimes I use my last name because it's a little unusual. And sometimes I say, if you want to be hot off the press, then you got to work with Marla Press. So there's a way, or I don't want to impress you. So I use mine in different ways, but AB Baby is just fun. So I love to be here with you.
Well, thank you so much, and I love it. I love that. AB Baby. A lot of my family members call me AB Baby, but it's very. You're right. It's very memorable, and I love it. You have your own quips for your name, and I think that everyone should have a quip to how we can actually stand out and be remember our names. So I love it. Thank you for. I think you're the first guest that's actually called me AB Baby, so I love it. But we're so
Uh,
glad to have you. And well, if you're ready, Marla, let's jump right in.
I
Please
am
welcome.
always ready to jump. Yeah. So AB Baby, I first of all, I love what you're doing. This is I tell people, don't just create a business, create a movement. And that's exactly what you've done. And just you so eloquently said how we want to be inclusive and come together. And it doesn't matter what you look like or what you believe in, even that we all have these commonalities. And I love that you said that. My mission is to help more people speak up and speak so people listen. So those are really two different things. When I was growing up, I did experience some trauma, and I know a lot of you out there have also. And I never spoke up about it, never. And it really hurt to hold that inside. And so part of my mission, why I went to college and got a degree in psychology and studied a lot of psychology and became a life coach and a therapist, is because I wanted to help people speak up. There's so many times, I mean, even little things, it doesn't have to be trauma, right? You might not speak up about your opinion, or maybe you didn't advocate for yourself at some point when you could have, in a relationship or in a medical situation or in any situation. And there's so many ways that sometimes we don't speak up. And it actually takes more energy to not speak up than it does to speak up. It feels better to speak up, but we hold back because we worry about the consequences, or we worry about how we'll be judged, or all those things that come into play. And then the other big thing is to know how to speak so people listen. And there is an art to that. And whether you just want to be in a relationship and speak so your partner listens, or your best friend, or your work partner, or whether you own a business or you're a leader. And I know a lot of you out there are leaders. How can you speak so people really pay attention and listen? And so I kind of combine my psychology and my life coaching and my public speaking coaching. And something else that I'm so passionate about is called the art of presence. And I put all that together to help people speak so people listen. And that's what I'd love to help as many people as I can to do. And it's joyful and it helps every part of your life to be able to speak this way. And part of it is about presence. So I don't know, Avi, if you have some thoughts on this so far, or if I should keep on going on about presence and energy.
Why don't you share a little more? I love what you're sharing, but share a little more, then we'll circle back to what you're sharing.
Yeah. So when it comes to presence, people don't quite understand what that means. A lot of people think presence is mindfulness. And mindfulness is really important. It is absolutely what we want to practice. You want to be in the present moment and not think about the past and how that could affect the present, or be thinking about what's going on now and how that's going to affect the future. Instead, you want to be in the present moment. But that's just the first step. To be a really good communicator, you want to get out of this cluttered mind altogether and be in your full body presence. It's embodying this energy that helps you to communicate from a much more authentic place. And I had to learn that because it's not natural for a lot of us. And I grew up being on stage all the time because I was in musical theater and I gave a lot of speeches. And then even later on as an adult, I was a consultant in the medical field and spoke on stages around the country. And so I was in performance mode and I get people excited and it would be entertaining, but I wasn't connecting to people. So what I show people is how to both entertain, because you got to be interesting, right? You have to grab people's attention. You have to be enthusiastic. But how can you also connect to people? Because we crave that. And even more than ever, one being in the informational age where we're bombarded with information, we crave connection and we crave experiences. And two, because it's just so much better to learn when you go through an experience than when someone just throws information at you. And so we have to know how to do both. And then, of course, with so much being online now, we really crave that connection because we don't always get enough of that human connection in person. And it's more and more we are, but there's still that need. There's always that need for that connection. So how can you have both? How can you communicate as a leader or as a business owner of any kind or in relationships? And in order to build a business, you gotta build relationships. It's all about that. So how can you have both? And how can you be really authentic in your communication? When it comes from this place, I believe one person can change a relationship. And so how you communicate affects someone else. They're going to be drawn into you more. They're going to listen more when you come from this authentic place. They're going to be also a little more in their authenticity and out of their cluttered mind when you exude that and you're an example of that. You communicate from that place. There's so much to this. I could talk on and on about it, but the energy is really important. And I'll just give one more example of when I talk about presence and energy, what that looks like. So it's easier to give you an example than to try and intellectually discuss it. So for presence, for example, there's people that walk into a room and nobody notices. They're just, the energy doesn't shift and you might not even remember that person was there. Maybe that's happened to you at times. And then someone else walks into a room and people just notice the energy shifts in the room. That person has presence. So it's not just about mindfulness, it's about this energy. And what is energy? So I'd like to give examples of that. For example, you meet somebody, and it could be in a meeting or a grocery store, wherever, and they look okay, they're dressed okay, and they're not saying anything too weird, but you just get this kind of creepy feeling from them that you don't quite trust them. Just something seems off, and you can't put it into words. That is their energy, and we've all experienced that. Or on the positive side, maybe you met your spouse this way, or your business partner, or your best friend. We call it chemistry. You meet someone and they look okay. They may not be the best looking person, but they look okay, and they don't say the perfect thing, but you're drawn into them magnetically. You want to be around them. You want more of them. You feel good when you're around them. That's an energetic chemistry that happens that we can't exactly put into words why that happened between you and this other person. But we're all affected by everyone's energy all the time. And we're usually kind of subconscious about it. We're not unconscious about it. We're not really aware of exactly why we're reacting certain ways or how our own energy is affecting someone else. But it always does. And as a speaker, it's really important to master your energy. So that's part of what I teach people to do. There's this internal energy that we talked about, the embodiment, but then there's this external energy too, that you are the master of or you're unaware of. So some people will shrink their energy, and they almost physically move back away from you. And maybe on Zoom, they're sitting back more, or maybe their energy is just kind of right here, and they're kind of shy and shut down a little bit. And other people are projectors, and they're like too far out there, and they're woo! And that can be entertaining and even charismatic and fun for a while, but that can also be a little hard to connect to those people. And then other people will diffuse their energy, and it just doesn't have boundaries, and it just feels like it's kind of all over the place. You don't know what they really think or feel, or what they're not taking a stand. As a speaker, you want to take a stand, even if it's edgy. It's better to take a stand, let people know where you are, and have people either be attracted to you or not. And most people will be, but it's okay if a few people are not. That's better than just being liked by everybody, but not making a difference in their life. So these are all ways to use your energy, both internal and external, that I go into a deep dive in my group sessions with people. I have public speaking groups, and they're very small groups, but they're so effective because we go through these exercises and a lot of energy work. But then we also go through, how do you inspire people, and how do you be clear about your message? So many people overspeak, they overexplain, and they talk about things that either they're using lingo or they're using things that people don't understand. And, you might be talking to someone who's really intelligent, but it's hard to take it in sometimes. So how do you have a compelling story? So if you're going to tell your personal story, which I hope a lot of you do, how do you make that compelling? And how do you make it about your audience? So you're really having the intention of not reliving your story or not just talking about yourself, but making it applicable to your audience. So for example, we don't have much time here today, but I talked very briefly about my story that I did go through trauma and I didn't speak up and how that felt, but I didn't dwell on it. And of course, if I had more time, I might go into some details. But I made that applicable for why that's important for you, because so many of you are holding back something because you got these messages. Your message doesn't matter. Your message isn't valuable or isn't important, or you shouldn't speak up. So many of us went through that, and it still affects us. We still have that little voice in there that's telling us, don't speak up. Don't fully express yourself. You can do little bit, but don't fully express yourself. And fully expressing yourself feels really good. It makes you authentic. It makes you interesting. And that's the way that you're really going to draw in a lot of people, whether it's your relationships or whether it's in your work or you're speaking from a stage. Like now, I can't see you, but I feel you. I know you're out there and I imagine who you are.
Wow. Marla, thank you so much for sharing. There's so many things you said that really resonated with me, and I am sure with a lot of people watching. But like, I'll just start from the beginning. What you started with, saying that that we it's more energy to not share ourselves than it is to share ourselves, and it's very counterintuitive. But I have a
Right.
lot of experience with that. Where I more afraid of my power than of my power, afraid of my power rather than the opposite of having no power. And there's a few, it hits me in a few different ways because I've been a career musician much of my life. Before one day, before most of my adult life, my career was performing. You spoke about presence, but also performance. But most of my career before this was touring and recording all the time. That's all I did. And it was, and one of the things that you said that really struck me is, I feel like a big part. So I've been the front man of, my band for many years, and I was putting on a performance, but I wasn't being present. I was afraid. I would figuratively and literally hide behind a pair of sunglasses,
Yeah.
like, have a mystique and about me, but I'd be afraid to actually have it, like you were saying, take a stand. And I think I enjoyed it and I loved it, but I mean, that what was missing for me for many years is I was afraid to take a stand of what people would think of me or what they wouldn't think of me. And it
Yeah.
just kind of became this codependent spiral of, do you like me now? Do you like this song? Do you like this? Are you going to buy my records? And it's like, but it really applies like to what you're saying is, and one of the takeaways I really hear in what you're sharing, it's not about what you do, as a speaker, as a leader, as a performer. It's about who you're being. And I think that's a big distinction that you're kind of pointing to is, it doesn't, because a lot of people, I feel like we naturally want to, how do I do this? How do I speak? How do I be charismatic? How do I make people like me? And, we want the how-to manual, how to be liked for dummies or, whatever,
Oh, I should
whatever.
write that book. Yeah.
We all want like a how-to manual. And I think that's the wrong question is, it's not, what people do. And, people look up to celebrities and, there's reason, people are looked up to because they're maybe authentic to themselves, but it may, if I try to act like my favorite actor or my favorite musician, that's inauthentic for me. Maybe it worked for them, but it's like if I try to emulate and do what they do, it's might not be what is naturally as expression for me. And I think ultimately, as you're saying, it's who I'm being, who we're being in the moment, being present. That's what you're speaking of when you're talking about energy. It's like our energy is what's felt when we're being true to ourselves, when we're being present, when we're taking an ebb and flow of the ever unknown present moment and just going with it and expressing ourselves. And in that way, life is more of a playground, is more of an expression of
Ooh, love
or
that.
of joy than it is uh step one, smile. Step two, say something witty. Step three, it's like we want a how to, but there is no how to. No matter how great a how to manual is, it will never be as powerful and authentic as just being true to
Yeah.
yourself in the moment.
I love that we're focusing on this because what I find is there's a lot of speaker coaches that will say, well, emulate your favorite speaker or,
Mm-hmm.
try and be like, I don't want to name names, but I have in the past, but, and I don't do that. What I say is intuitively, I get for each person what qualities they want to add that are part of them, but they're subduing them.
Mm-hmm.
And to add those qualities, it's a whole exercise I take people through, is how to, some people could be more bossy. And
Mm-hmm.
when, you know, and that's funny, especially that one I'll bring up. There's all kinds of things to this, but people think bossy is bad. Bossy just means you're directing people. And as a leader, or even as a business owner, you need to direct people to take you up on your offer, to take action in their life. And so you have to be somewhat directive. And we all have that in us, but people
Mm-hmm.
subdue it because they think it's wrong or bad, or, they don't want to seem pushy. So,
Right.
but when they do it in a safe place with me and they experience it, I don't tell them to do it, we experience it together, then they feel so much better and they come alive. It's amazing. And I love that you're focusing on, it's really not about what you do, and it's also not about emulating other people. Now, do we want to look at people who are successful and take some of their success strategies? Absolutely. But you don't want to be like someone else. You want to be yourself, but more fully expressed.
Right. Yeah, I think absolutely. And it's, yeah, and I think there's a difference between emulation and inspiration. It's like you can be inspired by someone, but I
Yeah.
feel, I mean, speaking for myself, when I've tried the doing, how to method, it's like I'm a naturally like ve- pretty introverted, which is, it's funny. It's very counterintuitive to be a front man of a rock band, to be very introverted, but like it's not authentic to pretend to be extroverted like other people,
Yeah.
and not that, I mean, not that it's not a spectrum, not that I can't be extrovert at times, but it's not sincere to be someone I'm not. It's just so funny because I like before a performance, before a big gig, try in the earlier days, I would try to, it would be a performance that I was playing out, but it wasn't in the moment presence of one particular person that I could connect with or tell a story about why this song was written. And I mean, this is, I feel like I'm a little hard on myself,
Yeah.
my past self, because I've had some amazing experiences. But just what you're saying is, it just, it's so true. It's universal what you're sharing is what I'm saying. It's very, there's so much we can do and learn and be inspired by others, but no matter how educated and how intellectually we know all the things to do, it will never connect and have the energy, the what's the word I'm looking for? It will never be as, there's no possibility in already knowing how it's going to go. And that's what I feel
Mm,
like you
yeah.
can only have in being present. It's like I feel like we really, this is kind of an adjacent but very resonant uh, thought is, being attached to a certain outcome. It has to be exactly this way. People are going to exactly think this, and it's like there's no room for possibility in our lives, in
Wow.
one speech, in one performance, if we already know the outcome. But if we're open to being surprised in the infinite unknown of this, of right now and right now and right now, maybe we'll fall on the stage, maybe someone will throw a shoe at us,
You can
maybe
only hope.
we'll get a phone call from our mom, maybe we'll get anything could happen. But it's like
Yeah.
if we lean into that unknown, like what you're saying, being present, that's where the magic happens with energy. It's not just, you're not on a one track, that if on a one track highway, that if something happens off the cuff, there's no space to respond, to create, to
Yeah.
quip, to make a joke, to say something sincerely created in this right now in the moment. And I feel like that's what you're speaking towards, is the our power comes in the present moment, in not trying to do any specific thing, but it's just, if we're true to ourselves, and we're authentic, and we have the courage to share ourselves, that's what people connect with. It's not what we're doing, it's how we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just like I always tell speakers, it's not what you say, it's how
Hmm.
you say it.
Exactly.
And a big mistake that speakers make is they want to memorize their speech, and they
Hmm.
think, I have to memorize it. Oh my God, what if I forget what I'm going to say? But
Right.
when you're memorized, even if you have it memorized well, so you're not reading it and it's not too robotic, it's always going to be a little robotic.
Yeah.
It's just different than having a conversation because you know your material so well. I mean, this conversation today, it's going in different directions, and I didn't know which direction it would go in, but that's okay because I can speak to all of it, and I'm confident about that, which is what I encourage speakers and really guide speakers to do. Is that your material and you can take it any direction, and then it just feels better, and then you don't have to worry about forgetting something. And
Yeah.
then one other thing I want to address that you said was, about the introversion and the energy, because a lot of speakers feel like, oh, I'm an introvert, or
Hmm.
I'm never going to be super high energy. Well, that's
Right.
okay. Because when I talk about really magnetic energy, it's not high energy necessarily versus low. It's this magnetic energy that
Hmm.
just is so authentic and so mesmerizing and so
Right.
inviting that you pull people in. And that's totally different than, yeah, a little bit of that high energy is great, but you don't even have to have that if you have the magnetic energy. And that's not low energy, because that's not good either. It's very specific, authentic, present energy.
Yeah, beautifully said. And I mean, I feel like there's so much to unpack there. One thing I want to ask you, if so, like, what do you say to, people that have a message, have a story that they know in their heart of hearts, will impact and make a difference for people, but they're at the edge of that cliff where it's like it's scary. I don't know if I want to do that. People might not like me. Like, what do you say to somebody who has that the calling is there, but they don't know what to do. What's the next step? Like, how do I start? Like, what do you say to someone who knows they have that gift, knows they have that story, but hits that wall of resistance?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question and a really important one, because there are a lot of people out there that have an inspiring story but don't quite know what to do with it.
Hmm.
And for one, you want to be clear on what do you want your audience to get? Because it should never be about you. It should be
Hmm.
about, how are you helping people? Do you have a solution for people? Do you have a very specific story on a specific topic that you want to show people that you got through it so they can get through it? And
Right.
it's important to be able to speak your story with the intention of not reliving it, but helping the audience. And you want to think, I mean, do you want to develop a coaching program? Do you want a group program, a one-on-one program? Do you want to just be a motivational speaker? To be so I'm not a business coach per se, but I do a lot of business strategy with my clients, because that's really important to figure all of that out and to get clear on what you really want and what you have to offer your audience. And then, there's ways to tell the story to make it about the audience. So we do specific work around how to craft that story so that it becomes about how you help people.
Yeah, I love that. It's like asking. It's an internal, back to the internal question of like, what do I want to leave people with?
Yeah.
How do I want them to leave them feeling? Who do I, it reminds me of I think it was like some seminar or something I did. I mean, I think it was like a Tony Robbins adjacent thing where they were talking about, a lot of people that I've experienced. I've had some experience myself, but I hear from others, and particularly coaches and entrepreneurs, is where's my target audience? Who are the people that I really want to speak to? And one trick I learned is the people, like, usually with any given message or anything that really can make a difference for people, is usually it's who you were. Your target audience is you X years ago, before you had that
Yeah.
realization. It's almost like you're talking to yourself 5 years in the past, however many years it was. And it's like, that's, and it's but I love what you said. It's about, how do you want to leave people? What, not only what value do you want to leave, but how do you want to, what is it that you want people to be left with, that they are, maybe their days easier, maybe they're more empowered, maybe they have, are repairing, rebuilding relationships that were fractured, maybe they are writing this book that they've always had in their, but they're afraid to, maybe it's
Yeah.
writing that song or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I think that it always starts with that internal, inquiry of what, what do I have, what do I uniquely have to offer that can make a difference, but also how do I want to leave people with what I uniquely have to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. There should always be takeaways. What do you want your audience to come away with? And most of the time, there should also be an action that you
Mm-hmm.
want them to take. So again, it could be they're gonna change something in their life, or they're gonna work with you to have your solutions for changing their life. So what is it that you want to leave people with? But you always want to start with that end in mind of
Mm-hmm.
what do I want them to take away? And then you build your talk from there backwards.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. It's that it comes back to that vision, it's like what you're saying, the end in mind is, that's what vision is for, to me, it's like, what
Yeah.
is that? But not only what does it look like, but what does it taste like? What does it feel like being there? And like, and I think
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of comes full circle with, what we're talking about. It's, the more clear we are with ourselves, not only about who we are, but why we are, all the things that, our brain wants, that has anxiety. Well, how do I do this? What do I do? What do I do? It's like those questions answer themselves when we're clear on who and why we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there's so much to this speaking, and it's different. Again, if you're an entrepreneur, you have your own business, or you're on a team, you're a leader of a team, you're an inspirational leader, you're a spiritual
Mm-hmm.
leader. It sort of depends on who you are and what your goals are. But the threads that go through all of this is authenticity, to making it about your audience, whether it's an audience of 1 or 200, and how to, really communicate so people listen. And it's hard to, especially online, it's really hard to grab people's attention. There's just so much noise out there. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of tips and tricks and energy work to do to really know how to grab people's attention and keep it. It's so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially in this day and age, there's, you know, who knows how many cat videos per hour, are uploaded that could, so many things, so easy to be distracted. And, it's interesting because, no matter, tomorrow there'll always be more content in the World Wide Web, more than there was the day before. And, and that just means we have to be, as speakers, as leaders, we have to be more focused on our message, on our vision, because the ultimate way to stand out to people is speaking truly to, it's speaking truly and fully to the to those who are exactly where we are or we were, and it's like the only way to stand out is by speaking to where people are at, meeting people where they're at.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you're saying, it's magnetic, it's drawing it, it's attracting, it's not pushing. It's like, please watch this, please listen to me. It's speaking in a way that people are drawn to you.
Yeah. And to make yourself interesting, it has to be not about you. And
Exactly.
yeah, you want a little bit about your story. You have to, be a little vulnerable. You have to talk about yourself to some degree, but ultimately it has to feel like it's about the audience, and it has to feel something, whether you're making them laugh or you're making them cry. You want to make them feel something and not just get more information, because we're just bombarded with that, and we're a little tired of it.
Right.
So,
Totally.
yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, we're in the Zoom era. I I completely understand.
Yeah.
So
And hey, we're on Zoom now, or we're on
anyway,
something similar. And there's
right.
so many benefits to that. I mean, I wouldn't have met you otherwise. And there's
Hmm.
just, you know, it's interesting because people say, I just, I have to be in person because I have to feel people's energy. But if you are
Hmm.
open, you can feel people's energy through
Hmm.
online. You can. And you can, have your energy come across online. And
Hmm.
that's what I help people with, not just be a talking head, but to
Right.
really be an energy source that is a great communicator. Yeah,
Mm,
really gives to people.
mm. Beautifully said. I love it. So before we finish here, I wanted to ask you, speaking of all the of all the things we've discussed, from presence to energy, what is, like, zooming out and maybe looking ahead, what is your vision for empowering people to share their story and to speak their story and to share their voice and their story? What do you see is possible for you, for the people you impact, for the greater world? What is your vision of of the work you do, of how people are left and how we're all left from the work you do?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I really want to help people who are helping people. So there's this ripple
Mm,
effect.
mhm,
And I find that especially a lot of people who have inspiring stories or inspiring missions, they're so heart centered that they
mhm,
just don't know how to stand out from the crowd and be heard.
yeah,
And my vision, my mission is to help you stand out from the crowd so that you're heard. Not to be, it's not about being selfish, it's not about being, the center of attention, but you got to get attention to change people's lives. You
yeah,
have to be clear about your message. You have to get your message out there to change people's lives. And that's what I'm all about doing, is helping those people who are not so good at promoting themselves, who have these messages, that will hold back a little bit. Oh, don't do that. Oh, you'll be too much. Don't be too powerful. All those messages that you probably got at one point or another, and to unhook from those so that
mm,
you can help more people. You can be inspiring to more people because we need inspiration in this day and age. We need people who are helping the world and doing good things. And I want to see so much of that going on right now. I mean, we
yeah.
we need that in our world.
It's beautiful. Yeah, I love it, and it's, you said it. It's the ripple effect. It's,
Yeah.
it's who I, the one person I impact today, or the 100 people or 1,000 people I affect next year, or
Yeah.
those who are those people going to affect. It's like it's everything. You know, everything ripples. And the
Yeah.
good and the bad.
Right.
Whatever we focus on,
Yes.
whatever we
Absolutely.
and it's kind of, so I think this is a theme we talk a lot about on this stage, is, I kind of use the metaphor, the analogy of a garden, but like, whatever we focus on, like, whether I've shared the story a few times, but I'll share just kind of briefly. My mom is an incredible gardener, and one time I asked her, what do you do with your weeds, the weeds in your garden? And she said, there's no such thing as weeds. Those are just plants that we think are ugly. I like, we personally think are ugly. And and that really just like kind of imparted this deep wisdom of, whatever we focus on is what we'll see. I could be committed to this world as a very ugly place and be right, but I could also be equally committed to this world as a beautiful, amazing place. It's like, whatever we're looking for is what we'll see. It's the
Yeah.
lens, and it's like, and whether we're and it's like, that's an internal thing that we have with ourselves, but like, it's really, that's the filter that we have. No, and if we're committed to seeing the beauty, seeing the ripple of the impact we have on others, and the impact that has on other, like, the degrees of ripples, that's possible. It's when we focus on the possibility, on the beauty,
Yeah.
that's what we see. And that's why it's, it's and that's what I see. That's our quest.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. Yeah, it's funny. There's two things in there. One is the law of attraction, and it's a
mhm,
real thing. And what we
mhm,
focus on, we attract. And the other thing is, that it's the negative versus the positive. I mean, we can just create more positive in the world, and
mhm.
we need to have a lot of that. So that's just really, really important. I love that you're saying that. And yeah, what one I'm trying to think of what a quote could be that I can make. A one person's weed is another person's dinner or
Flower,
something.
flower. Hey, the one person's weed is another person's flower. I like that. It's whatever. It's like, but like, to the garden analogy. It's like, when whatever we focus on is what grows, and it's like, that's ultimately, it
Yeah,
could be a negative thought or it could be a beautiful thought,
yeah,
and that's our power. And it's like you were pointing to earlier. It's that little voice that says, I can't do this, or I don't know how to do it. It's like, that's the little thought that we feed. If we'll we will falsely believe that voice to be ourselves. But at the same time, we as creators have the power to change ugly weed into a beautiful flower. We get to rewrite our story with our context of how we speak to ourselves, how we speak to others. And that's what it comes down to, is when we are aware, in each moment we have that power. We get to seek where we can make an impact, and water and give sun to those seeds that we plant and that others plant. And that's really what, for me, that's what it's about, is when we plant seeds, you
yeah.
know for others, we all reap the benefits. We all get the joy, the laughter, the beauty from those seeds, and what's possible when we're all planting those seeds and all watering those seeds. That's what inspires me.
Yes, I love that analogy of the garden, and that's amazing that your mom's such a wonderful gardener. Yeah, I used to have a huge vegetable garden, and the bunnies kind of destroyed it. But I just
Mm.
it feels so good to especially grow your own vegetables.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I used to love to do that. Yes.
Yeah, no, it's actually during the pandemic in particular. I had a huge garden as well, and I've got it going this year, but I had a lot more time at home, when I had the flourishing garden, including a vegetable garden. But I really appreciate you, Marla, being with us and sharing everything with us.
Mm,
Is there
yeah.
anything else that you'd like to share with our audience before we part?
Yeah, I just want to say to everyone to, even in little ways, speak up. Whether
Hmm.
it's, again, in a relationship, at work, with coworkers, with your kids, speak up, speak your mind. And you know, it may not always come out exactly as you want, but that's okay. You're giving your subconscious the message that you are important, that what you have to say is valuable, and that's going to have a ripple effect in how you communicate in all kinds of ways. So I really encourage everyone to do that. And yeah, I teach really small group, 5 to 8 people usually at a time, on how to be better speakers. And it's so valuable because I don't give people, the 5 steps to do something. Now go implement it, go do your homework. No, that's not how people learn. So, I take them through these exercises, and it's not all energy work. It's all kinds of things that help you be a better speaker. So I encourage people to check it out.
I love it. I love how you distinguish between, and I think a lot of people mix these two things up, is intellectual knowledge versus experience.
Yeah.
Knowing about something, you could study for years how does the vocal cords, how speaking works, the physics of sound, of a podium, of a speaker, but not ever actually speak. But I love it. And that's what it's about. It's not about how to. It's it's about who I'm being and why I'm being. But Thank you. You're such inspiring,
Thank you
words,
so
and
much.
I love what you're up to, and I hope you'll come back and share with us some more in the future.
Thanks, Avi. I really appreciate you and I appreciate what you're doing in the world. This is so important. I just love it.
Thank you so much, Marla. And thank you all for being with us. Just real quick, I just want to remind you this is what we do at One Day. Our mission is bringing you and me and communities together in joyous celebration, unifying humanity in our diversity to create a better world for us all. And that's all part of our vision, where humanity is rising in a connected world with each person's unique contributions, unique gifts, unique genius being valued and magnified through a higher level of collaboration, producing unprecedented new realms of possibility.
Love
Thank
that.
you all. Thank you all so much. So great to have you. We want to invite you too. If you want to share on this stage, you can share your gifts with us. Go ahead, go to the link in the bottom of the screen, onedaymvmt.org/share my gift. But thank you all. We'll see you all next week. Be safe, be well. And as always, one day is today. Take care, everybody.